Hello and welcome to the world's most watched TSL Talk Show. Today we're joined by Damien McIver from ABC. Damien, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me again, Brett.
I suppose before we look at the round, we should start on the state squad that was announced last week. Been plenty of talk about this state squad. I think I can sort of see where they're coming from, but have they just gone maybe a little bit too far in trying to promote the youth and potential?
I reckon they've got two ideas and they've tried to put them together into one. All well and good to identify potential young players who maybe one day will get drafted, but leave the state squad for the best performed players in the state league. At the moment, I think what they've done is put a few noses out of joint. Players that I think deserve to have been picked in that squad haven't been picked. And in the public's eye, I think it's diminished what the state team is all about, because people are looking at it and thinking, what, is this just another form of the Mariners, is it? Or is it the Devil's Light program? I'm not really sure, but it should just be a state team. I think the best 22 players should be picked for that game.
Yeah, you've got to earn the right to wear the map, don't you? And the other thing, I suppose, is we want 25-year-olds to stick in the competition, and this is one of the big draw cards that you can play for Tasmania and play against these better competitions.
Well, absolutely. Yes, they put out criteria, and one of it is if you're over the age of 24, you're going to have to be, really fit or something like that, or lots of leadership. There was some sort of criteria where basically it was sort of saying you'll be lucky to make the team if you're over 24, and that's just the wrong message, I reckon.
That's right. Now to have a look at the round, and we saw the Eastern Shore Cup on Saturday, and Clarence still just remain that little bit better than Lauderdale, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It was first quarter. Lauderdale were fantastic, and I thought, here we go. They're in front. They look like they didn't look like a team that was troubled by Clarence at all. Sometimes teams go to Bellerive, and it's almost just the aura of playing Clarence at Bellerive. They're beaten before the balls even bounce. But Lauderdale started well, and then tremendous character, I thought, from Clarence to hit back. We saw lots of goals kicked to the southern end, and Clarence in the second quarter, I think they kicked 7 or 8 goals to zip, and from that point on, they really never looked like losing.
Brady Jones is we know him well as a Tasmanian wicketkeeper, but he's also a very handy footballer.
Yeah, very handy. He's fitted right in. I think the midfield of Clarence actually in many ways has gone a step up from last year. I think the injection of Jones, I think Aaron French is playing really good football, and they just look a lot quicker through that part of the ground. So yeah, Matt Drury's done a terrific job in his first year as coach.
One of the most interesting games was up at the TCA on Sunday. It's a battle for the inner city licence, and it got pretty physical up there by the looks of things.
Yeah, I guess we were expecting, just given what's happening between the two clubs, the history of the off-season with players moving about, and I guess the predicament they've found themselves in with the uncertainty around their future. And look, there's two ways of splitting it, isn't it? You can either say great effort by Hobart, who we know are undermanned and struggling to get that close to North Hobart, but on the other side of it, what is happening to North Hobart? I mean, that sort of result is just ridiculous.
Yeah, they do have a lot of players out, but everyone tipped them to make the finals, and at this form at the moment, they're a long way off making finals action.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it last week about how disappointing they've been, and you look through the list, yeah, and you're right, it is worth pointing out they were missing some players, but we expected a whole lot more of them this year, and look, it's still early days, they can turn it around, but at the moment, some really worrying signs.
Launceston will be really happy with their win at the moment. They're also a team that's very undermanned due to injuries and school footy, and to come down to Glenorchy and get away with a win, it's great for them.
Yeah, I reckon they would have been really nervous going in, just as you're right with their injuries, and it's really a case of just damage control, get whatever wins they can, wait for those players to get back. So to scrape over the line against Glenorchy, I mean, look, Glenorchy, similar boat, I think, in terms of they weren't favourites going in, but yeah, heartbreaking for them to get so close and then lose. And Launceston, well, as long as they can, I mean, stay in touch, I think second half of the year they'll be fine.
Yeah, and a horrific injury to Kurt McCabe. Clash of heads left him convulsing on the wing, and I think the game stopped for about 18 minutes while an ambulance came and took him to hospital.
Yeah, it's never good to see or hear about those sorts of things, and hopefully he'll be fine. It's nothing more disconcerting, I reckon, whether you're watching a game or even being involved, and when a player's knocked out and then you're just so helpless in that situation. So yeah, fingers crossed everything's okay.
Should we be getting on the South Lonnie bandwagon? They're 3 from 5 and sitting in 4th at the moment.
I know, inside the top 5. And look, the way it's panning out with Glenorchy struggling a bit, North Hobart in all sorts of problems, 5th spot isn't out of the question for them.
Yeah, it's a good win. I mean, it wasn't a great win over Devonport, aren't travelling too well, but they're getting the wins they're supposed to win.
Absolutely, and they had a good win over Hobart the week before, so they can keep doing that. And look, they beat North Launceston earlier in the year. A few more wins like that, that'll put them above those teams that they're competing with for 5th spot.
And Mitchellthorpe leading the way with 4 goals on the weekend.
Not in the state squad?
Not in the state squad, no. Top 10 pick in the national draft, but not in Tassie's 38 best players at the moment.
Yeah, well, they said there'll be a few changes, so we'll see. But no, look, he's done a great job with South Lonnie. It's good. I was speaking to him. He says, his body's feeling really good. He's been able to do a full pre-season, and eyebrows were raised when he was appointed coach. He's still very young, but great to see the Bulldogs on the way up.
And we'll probably find out how good the Bulldogs are this Saturday when they host Clarence up at Youngtown.
Yeah, big game. Traditionally, in the last few years, this has been one of the bigger touch-ups of the year when Clarence plays South Lonnie, but I reckon the gap has certainly narrowed, and they'll be keen to show that up at Youngtown, where it's becoming a pretty difficult place to win games of football this year.
Well, thanks very much, Damien. We certainly got our taxpayers' money out of you today. Thanks very much for coming in, and remember, for all your TSL stories, pick up your copy of the Mercury or go to the Mercury online.